Welcome, gentle listener. I am Voldemort, your faithful servant, and I wish to introduce you to the forces, factions, and important faces of the Warhammer 40k universe, the grim darkness of the far future, where there is no time for peace, there is only time for war. And today, we are to discuss a character that was once represented on the tabletop. Alas, this is no longer possible, as a character has not been given statistics in the last few editions, yet she is still very much active in the lore. It is hoped she may have a new model and new abilities, but such is the way. We always yearn for that which has been discontinued. Of course, I speak of Lady Malys, the only person in the grim darkness of the future that is as cunning, as canny, and as corrupt as the Lord of Comorragh, the Dark City, Asdrubael Vect himself. And so, as usual, for the very basics, let us lean on existing wisdom. To quote Lady Malys. Though less than 1,000 years of age, Lady Aurelia Malys is the only Archon who has proven able to match Asdrubael Vect's soaring intellect time and time again. Even before the fateful events that led to her ascendancy, Malys's mind was built like an incredibly complex timepiece, a latticework of tiny golden cogs each clicking away in its place. She is consummately cunning, but at all times she conducts herself with perfect decorum, and even a frosty politeness that hides her lethal intentions. Her hauteur and aloof manner is echoed throughout her court, for only the quickest of wit are admitted to the cabal of the poisoned tongue. The accuracy with which Malys can predict her enemies' moves borders on supernatural. Malys's detractors like to imply that she has a degree of psychic ability, but most believe her uncanny prescience comes purely from having a mind like a steel trap. She has an astonishing ability to be elsewhere when her enemies' blades fall, be it political or physical. One who sees Malys casually dispatch a mob of howling orcs with her exotic blade and razor-edge fan is left in no doubt that she is as lethal in action as she is in word. The story behind Malys's strange ability to outguess her opponents is far more peculiar. Long ago, Lady Aurelia was a consort to Asdrubael Vect. The Supreme Overlord found her astoundingly complex mind, stimulating enough that he took her as a lover and a courtier. Within less than a decade, though, he had tired of his new distraction, and he began to treat Malys as little more than an annoying insect before banishing her from his court for good. Malys did not take it well. Flying into a violent rage, she and her most favoured followers left Comorragh and struck out on their own into the webway. Her self-imposed exile had unforeseen consequences. In the depths of the labyrinth dimension, Lady Malys came across a scintillating being of pure light. Though it banished her followers with a single gesture, the half-real creature engaged Malys in a contest of wills, a contest in which the loser's own heart would be forfeit. To their mutual surprise, Malys held her own against the celestial trickster's incessant riddling, and incredibly she eventually emerged triumphant. The being vanished with a chuckle, leaving in its place a strange blade that moved to its own accord, and its heart. A fist-sized lump of crystal pulsing with light. Half crazed by her ordeal and determined to get her revenge upon Vect no matter the cost, Malys seized the strange blade, cut out her own heart and replaced it with that of her enigmatic foe. Her flesh fused around it until no blemish could be seen. The crystal heart beats there still. When Lady Malys returned to Comorragh, she slowly but surely regained her position as Archon of the Poisoned Tongue. Her plans and ploys seemed impenetrable, each a perfectly executed tapestry of cause and effect. In real space raids, Malys became a true terror, fighting like a woman possessed, and outguessing and outmaneuvering the strike forces of other cabals to ensure she escaped with the lion's share of the spoils. Throughout her rise to the top of the echelons of power, Malys smiled not once, her face ever a mask of self-assurance and contempt for the Dark Eldar that once clawed and scraped for favour. When she is sure no one is around, however, Malys will gaze long into her own reflection, grinning, then giggling, then bursting into terrifying seizures of laughter that seem for all the world to come from two throats at once. For the being that now shares her soul is powerful indeed, and with its assistance, Malys may hold the keys to the demise of Vect and to the fate of Comorragh itself. End quote. Now this specific entry was taken from the 5th edition Dark Eldar Codex, before they became Drukhari, and before they had a sweep and lost half of their characters on transition to 6th edition, for, alas, sometimes the real world affects the grim darkness, as she did not have a specific bespoke representation on the field in the model range. She had to be removed from the subsequent entries, something I will dwell on in more detail in the future. But despite not being able to field her in a game, she is, as I have said, still very active. Now to her heart, that being of light. Some say this was actually Segara, the laughing god of the Harlequins, one of the only active Eldar deities left. It would fit into his archetype at the very least. It is also seen that he, Segara, may well be playing a very complex game of cause and effect through her, and thus attempting to affect the entire Dark City and all of its denizens. Malys fled Segara a second time after Asdrubael Vect's assassination, and did not attend his funeral. A very prescient move indeed, as he returned and his detractors were slaughtered in a display of his power. Some say that Malys was responsible for his assassination by mandrakes, but it does seem more likely that he arranged this himself as a stalking horse to reveal all those forces in the Dark City that were not loyal and would have conspired towards his downfall. Vect also claims to have ascended to being a Dark Muse, but one should never take what Vect says at face value. We shall deal with these nuances when we get to the Dark Lord of Comorragh himself in the near future. All that is known for certain is that the war that went on around the Gate of Cain, at the very base of the Dark City, a portal to the warp that if opened can cause horror untold even to the Dark Eldar, as the warp and all of its legions would crash into the city and web way through it. For a long time now, bands of Harlequins and Drukhari have been at war around its base. Both sides claim that the other is actively attempting to destabilize and open the gate, but who can tell which side speaks the truth, Vect or Malys, if either do at all. Despite this, the gate did throw open when Vect returned, but this was due to the shockwave of the advent of Inyad and his choosing of an emissary in Ivrain, a situation that has drawn Vect's ire towards the Inari forever after. Lady Malys will be the only Drukhari, the only Eldrithianese, with even a passing potential to unseat and replace Asdrubael Vect. Let us see if she will return in full force in this new edition, for she is truly an interesting and terrifying character in equal measure. I have been Voldemort, your faithful servant. I hope you have enjoyed this brief introduction to Lady Malys of the Drukhari. If so, then do consider liking and subscribing. If you do, then hit the notifications button, as I would not want you to miss out. Also be aware that a share of this video is intensely helpful, and we do have a Patreon, and any support would permit potentially better entries and would be a great boon. Now, no matter what you do today, do try to make some time for fun. Toodaloo.